Hello guys, this is 12th Harbinger and welcome to my channel. In this video, I am going to guide you on how to build Wanderer to get the maximum value out of his kit. Without any further ado, let's jump right into it. Let's start with Wanderer's talent explanation, starting with his normal attacks. The great majority of Wanderer's damage comes from his normal attacks. His attacks are long range and have good tracking, which is useful against enemies that fly or move a lot. His elemental skill enables him to fly and hover in midair after casting, and grants him the wind-favored state, which increases the power of his normal and charged attacks. Wanderer receives Kugoryoku points while in the wind-favored state, which indicate how long Wanderer can stay in this state. Wanderer's Kugoryoku points are represented by a distinctive stamina bar that depletes over time. He spends more points when dashing, increasing flight speed, or increasing altitude. Wanderer's elemental skills talent level scaling is weak but is a crucial part of his kit as it boosts his normal and charged attacks. After using his burst, Wanderer will step on you and deal 5 anemo damage hits in a row. Since he has high energy requirements, it's better to burst in alternate rotations. If you cast his burst while in the duration of wind-favored state caused by his elemental skill, the wind-favored state will end. So, it's better to use it before using his elemental skill or after the wind-favored state is over. You can use Wanderer's burst before his skill, at the end of his skill period, or even in the middle of a rotation to clear a wave of opponents, depending on your situation. Wanderer's first ascension passive. Jade-claimed flower will give him buffs based on the elements he swirls with his elemental skill. Swirling Pyro will increase his attack by 30%. Cryo will increase crit rate by 15%. Hydro increases his special stamina points by 20, and Electro will give him energy. You can have up to 2 different kinds of these buffs simultaneously. His skill works like Kazuya. He will swirl the element that he is affected with. His skill also interacts with the environment. Infusion priority of elements is Pyro followed by Hydro, Electro, and lastly Cryo. The best buff to go for will be Cryo, but it has the least priority, so sometimes it might get difficult to infuse it, as environment can easily interfere. Controlling the buffs that Wanderer receives is difficult. It's best to avoid building teams around the buffs. Pyro and Cryo are the best buffs. Electro buff can also be useful for solving his energy issues, especially at C2. The Hydro buff offers some comfort by giving him more stamina that can be used for dodging. Next is his second ascension passive, Gale of Reverie. When Wanderer hits the opponents with his normal attacks in his wind-favored state, he has a 16% chance to obtain descent effect. If Wanderer dashes during the descent effect, it will not consume any stamina, and he will fire off 4 wind arrows that deal 35% of his attack as anemo damage each. If an attack fails to generate this effect, the chance of getting this buff gradually keeps increasing. Keep in mind that dashing before activating this buff greatly reduces Wanderer's DPS due to the Kugoryoku points lost by standard dodges. To avoid this, pay attention to the audiovisual cues that appear when the passive is triggered. If the passive is ready to use, Wanderer will light up and make a ping sound and rings will appear around his wrists. For his talent priority, level his normal attacks followed by his elemental skill and burst. But if you have his C2, his burst gets higher priority than his skill. Ultimately, you need to level all of his talents. Moving on to his constellations. His C1 increases the normal attack and charged attack speed by 10%. It gives you the ability to add up to 2 extra normal attacks to your rotation. Additionally, the wind arrows fired by his Ascension 4 passive will deal an additional 25% of his attack as damage. His C2 provides a 200% burst damage bonus, as long as you use Wanderer's burst after 50 Kugoryoku points are consumed in his wind-favored state. With this constellation, it's better to burst at the end of his skill duration. And you need to make sure that you have enough energy recharge to burst every rotation for maximizing your burst damage. His C3 and C5 increases his burst and skill level by 3 respectively. His C4 adds a random buff in addition to the 2 buffs that Wanderer can typically get from his Ascension 1 passive. His C6 allows him to launch additional anemo damage that deal 40% of the normal attack damage dealt by Wanderer during his normal attacks. Additionally, this prolongs the wind-favored state, which can boost DPS while slowing the rotation. This is how much % damage increase you can get from each constellation from the previous one and from C0. Credits to KQM for this calculation. His best constellations are the 2nd and the 6th one, but you don't need to pull for them unless you are a whale. Moving on to his best artifact sets. The best artifact set for Wanderer will be 4-piece Desert Pavilion Chronicle. This set is tailor-made for Wanderer as it increases high normal attack speed and gives a huge damage boost to his normal and charged attacks. However, this set is only slightly better than 4-piece Shimnawa's Reminiscence. Most of us will have a good 4-piece Shimnawa set. You can use that on Wanderer if you don't want to go through the trouble of farming the 4-piece Desert Pavilion Chronicle set. With this set you can burst every 3 rotations. However, do not use this set if you have his C2, as using his burst becomes very important. 4-piece Echoes of Offering is a viable set for him. However, ping becomes a major factor for increasing the damage output from this set. You can also mix and use 2 pieces of Desert of Chronicle, Viridescent Venerer, or any set that gives 18% attack. Regarding Wanderer's energy recharge requirements, at C0 you don't need to build any energy recharge on him. If you are using Shimnawa set, you might want to build some energy recharge on him. However, at C2, you need to build some energy recharge on him to maximize his damage. You need to build around 160% ER to have a consistent uptime on his burst. If you have C6 Faruzan, you can get away with 130 to 140% energy recharge. Having triple Anemo in your team can also lower his ER requirements. The Electro buff from his Ascension 1 passive can further lower his energy requirements. For his artifact stats, attack percent on Sands, Anemo damage bonus on Goblet, crit rate or damage on Circlet. For artifact substats, prioritize crit rate followed by attack percent, and having some energy recharge can be nice too. At C2, getting the required amount of energy recharge becomes the priority. Moving on to his best weapons. His best in-slot weapon is his signature weapon Chilatola's Remembrance. It gives a huge boost to his normal attacks and also has a high base attack with 44% crit damage. Memory of Dust is his second best weapon, especially if you are not using Bennett, as this weapon gives a lot of attack percent. Wanderer gets interrupted a lot, so using him with a shield character is a wise choice. And this will work in favor of Memory of Dust's passive. Skyward Atlas is not that far behind from Memory of Dust. It is his best standard banner weapon option if you don't have Bennett in your team. But if you have Bennett, Lost Prayer becomes his second best in-slot weapon. Next we have R5 Widsith. Unfortunately, Wanderer can't benefit from the EM buff. He can only use the attack percent and elemental damage buff. The buffs are complete RNG. This causes Widsith to fall in the rankings. Next we have R5 Dodoko Tails. This weapon is very strong on Wanderer. With this weapon you just spam charged attack. Make sure to use a normal attack before spamming his charged attacks to activate his passive. Don't forget to refresh the passive by doing a normal attack after every 5 to 6 seconds. Next we have Kagura's Verity. Its passive is not useful on Wanderer as it only buffs the elemental skill, but it provides high crit damage and base attack, which makes up for the lack of passive utility. Next we have Solar Pearl. This is a battle pass weapon and is a good option for Wanderer as it provides a good amount of crit rate. The passive buffs his burst damage and normal attacks. If you don't have any of these weapons, you can use the Eye of Perception, Oathsworn Eye, or Blackcliff Agate, which can be obtained from Paimon Shop. The passive of Blackcliff Agate is not that reliable, but the weapon gives crit damage. For craftable options, you can use the Frostbearer Catalyst. Moving on to his attack combos. First we have his N3 spam. In this you just spam his normal attacks. It is the best combo when using Chilatola's Remembrance or Solar Pearl, and with buffs that provide normal attack damage buff like Yunjin's Burst. Next is his N2C combo. In this you do 2 normal attacks and 1 charged attack. This is best for weapons that boost both normal and charged attacks. And lastly we have the charged attack spam. His charged attacks doesn't consume any stamina in wind favored state, so you can spam it. As mentioned earlier, it is the best with weapons like Dodoko Tails that buff your charged attacks. Make sure to do a normal attack every 5 to 6 seconds to keep Dodoko's passive active. You can cancel his charged attack animation by doing another charged attack. Also, don't forget to make use of his Ascension 4 passive. Make sure to pay attention to its audio-visual cues mentioned earlier and dash to unleash the passive. Moving on to his teams. Faruzan, especially at C6, and Bennett are the best teammates for Wanderer for maximizing his damage. If you don't have Faruzan, you can replace her with Sucrose for Anemo Particles and Thrilling Tails buff. The best team for maximizing his damage will be Wanderer, Faruzan, Bennett, and the last slot is Flex. For the last slot you can use a shielder like Zhongli, Diona, Layla, or another buffer like Yunjin, or C4 Jean, or another sub-DPS like Yelan, Jingshu, Fischl. You can build a triple Anemo team with Wanderer, Faruzan, Bennett, and Venti, Kazuo, or Sucrose with DPS build, and they will also give crowd control. You can give Sucrose Thrilling Tails for buffing Wanderer. Other teams you can use are double Hydro team with Wanderer, Faruzan, Yelan, and Zingshu. This team is great for single target, and with Viridescent set on any of the Anemo character can further boost Yelan and Zingshu damage. You can replace Faruzan with Bennett or a shielder for survival. Next is double Pyro team with Wanderer, Faruzan, Bennett, and Xiangli. This team has a big AoE and strong damage due to Xiangli. Make sure to give Viridescent to any of the Anemo character to further boost her damage. However, other teams like the Xiangling's national team works better than this team. You can also build Freeze team with Wanderer, Faruzan, a Hydro character, and Cryo character. The Hydro character can be Kokomi, Yelan, Xingqiu, or Mona, and for the Cryo you can use Rosaria, Layla, or Ganyu. You can also use him as a driver just like Sucrose in teams like Taser teams with Fischl, Beidou, and off-field Hydro Applier. But Sucrose is a better unit in such teams. Overall, Wanderer is a strong Anemo DPS and really easy to use, as you just need to spam his normal and charged attacks. Comment down below what you like the most about Wanderer. And that's all for this video. I hope it was helpful. Share this video with your fellow Wanderer simps and don't forget to leave a like. Subscribe to my channel for more Genshin videos. Thanks for watching.